builds for Monster Hunter Rise before Sunbreak. And I wanted to put this out here because I've seen a lot of different content, whether that's on YouTube comments, Reddit posts, the game.8code websites, and some other different websites that give you these low rank, mid rank, in-game builds. And a lot of them do work really well in terms of getting you in the right direction of thinking about the builds themselves with skills and weapons and armor. But there's not a lot of optimizing, and I feel like the way that I'm going to describe things today will help a lot of people make their builds, especially going into Sunbreak. And so without any further ado, let's sort of get started with this. I think the most important thing is you have to understand what are the most valuable skills for a dual blade. And for me, high priority wise, you're going to always be wanting to max crit boost and weakness exploit. So those are level 2 skills that have three levels in each. You're always going to want to have max of both. If you don't have max of both, you need to fix up your build in whatever way or fashion. The next sort of skills that are still high priority but aren't as valuable or aren't as prioritized as the first two I mentioned are going to be your critical eye and your attack boost. A critical eye is very situational sometimes. You're going to get 3 crit eye because you may have a negative 15% affinity weapon and you want to get it to 0, or maybe you have 4 crit eye to get it to 5%. There's just different kind of play testing with that. And then attack boost is always welcome because it just increases your overall attack damage. Now those you don't necessarily have to max, and a lot of times you won't because there are potentially 7 skill levels that you can put into there, and that's a lot of decorations, a lot of armor pieces that you'd have to get into to make that work. And I'll cover what the optimal levels are for those when we get into the actual builds. The next set of skills for the dual blades that you want to be focusing on, so those are all damaging skills. Those are what you're going to be needing for your damaging skills. The next set of skills is the final damaging skills, and that is your elemental attack. For most, the basic core elements, you're going to have 5 slots that are all level 1 that you need to fill out, and you want to be maxing that as much as you can. So most of your builds, let's say you have a water attack build, you're going to want to have level 5 water attack all the way filled up, and that applies to most of your elemental builds as much as you can. And then the final tier of skills that you're going to want to be looking at is going to be your quality of life skills. So that's the constitution, since dual blades eat through stamina with the demon mode. That's your stamina surge. That's your protective polish, so that you're not losing sharpness a lot with all the hits that you're doing as dual blades. Evade extender for moving around and juking out the monsters a lot. And just a lot of other little quality of life skills that I may cover in some of these builds. Those are going to be after you've been able to fill out some of those prior skills that are higher priority. Okay, so my builds, I run about 18, and they're basically broken down into elemental, unique elemental as in blast, poison, sleep, and then the raw damage, which is more going to be focused on your Nightwings and your Rampage weapons. So to go through the elemental ones first, because elemental ones are always more important. They're superior. As a dual blade player and in Rise, you're doing a lot of elemental damage, and it's very good in this game. So you want to be focusing on getting elemental damage off more so than raw damage. It's just way more valuable in a fight. But almost all of my pieces, I'd say 90% of them are going to be run as Kaiser Crown, Azure Age Haoris, Valstrax Braces, Anjanath Coil, Ingot Greaves, and then I'm going to run my Demon Petalist 3s and Fatal Tempest Talisman. The reason why I run Demon Petalist 3s, which are only rarity 6 versus like an Absolute Petalist or Underworld Petalist, is it's a playstyle mindset. If you run Demon Petalist, you're sacrificing some health and stamina to maximize your attack. If you run the other two, you're running it to be a little bit more safer, have a little bit more stamina, but you're sacrificing some potential attack damage. And that's how you got to think about it. Talisman-wise, I made a video with these actual builds a couple days ago, and then immediately got a superior talisman to what I was running. And so the talisman that I have now is 2 slots, 1 Bombardier, and 2 Constitution. And that means that I'm getting 2 slots that I can put 2 level 2 skills in. I'm getting a Bombardier, which isn't too important, but it's just nice to have for maybe setting off bomb traps. And then I have 2 Constitution, which is 2 level 2 slots for a skill that you might want to prioritize. So it's a very good talisman, and it's changed the way I make my builds. But the important thing about my builds is I'm picking my armor pieces strictly off of value for value. what armor sets, what armors are giving me the most relevant skills and the most options for slotting. And that's how I pick them. And so, as I said, I go through Kaiser Crown, Azure Ages, and all the others, and that's how I build them. I will give a breakdown in my YouTube video of why I build them those ways and why I use those specific pieces, but just know that that's how I run the normal elemental builds. Now, as far as the elemental builds where you may be switching it up a little bit, you might change the Azure Ages for Vike Mail, and I'll get into why you would do that in the description. You may also have a Bludgeoner build, which might be sacrificing, you know, your Valstrax braces for Tigrex braces. Different little trade outs that you would do. There's also the handicap build that you'd see where I run the Volvodon Helm, the Ragna Arm Guards, and the Hunter Greaves as opposed to some other pieces, and that's simply because of a couple different circumstances with these Raging Claws. And then blast builds, you can see I'll run like a Jelly Vest and Kaiser Vambraces and Kaiser Coil, just because you get blast buildup and you get those blast attack off the Jelly Vest. Then for raw damage, the difference you'll see there is that a lot of times I'll run Golden Hakamas for my Nightwings because I've already got amazing affinity on them. And then finally the Rampage Twin Blades, which I don't have too much of a difference because I try and run Blast and Water on them, and those may be built a little bit differently depending on how you play the game. So this is high level how I pick my builds and how I focus my skills. Again, I don't want to make this a 30-minute video explanation that goes through all 18 builds. I just wanted to give you an overview of what you should be looking at and how you should be playing the dual blades. I will be, of course, mentioning a lot of this in the description of the YouTube video that covers specific comparisons of armor pieces and skills and why you would optimize certain ones. The last note is that if you guys have any questions or you have any input on what you think is a better build or better optimization for a certain one, please just leave a comment. I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. And anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.